All right, so we're going to take a look at your first question here. And probably the best thing that I could recommend to do on a question like this is if it says that you're dealing with a triangle, is draw a picture. Um, you'd be surprised at how many times something doesn't make sense until you draw a picture, if it's possible. So in this case right here, it's talking about a triangle. So drawing a picture might help you understand a little bit. I'm not, I don't know if it will or not, but let's try it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch screens where I have a little bit more. So we're going to have a triangle and it's going to have sides of x, x plus 2, and x minus 4. So let me switch to a whiteboard screen. There we go. And I'm going to draw a triangle here. And then we had sides of x, x plus 2, and x minus 4. And then it was asking for the perimeter. So perimeter is when we add the distance around, okay? And so just taking a look at this and knowing that perimeter is adding, if I just take the x's and go x plus x plus x, well, I've got 3 x's there, so x plus x plus x would be 3x. And then still with the mindset of adding, I don't have anything else here, but I do have here, we've got a positive 2 and then a minus 4. So that would technically be 2 minus 4 or 2 plus a negative 4. And so 2 minus 4 would give me a negative 2. And I will say they may not let you have a calculator on this. Sorry, my minus sign was weird. So if they don't let you have a calculator on doing something like 2 minus 4, the rule is if the signs are different, so this is a positive and this is a negative, then you're going to subtract. So you would just say 4 minus 2 is 2. And then you always keep the sign of the bigger number. 4 is bigger, so I keep the sign of the negative. And so if I just went 4 minus 2, I'd get 2 and then keep the sign of the bigger, and you'd get your negative right there. All right, and then we've added everything together, and that's it. That's your answer. You can't combine something that has an X with something that is just a number. And so you just have to leave it like that right there. So that would kind of be like if, best way to explain that might be like if I was combining fruit and money. So let's say X represented apples. Okay, well, I've got 3 apples here, and then so I'd put 3 apples. And then if the numbers just represented money, then, I'd have a negative $2. Well, I can't combine negative $2 with 3 apples. So you just got to leave it like that. And that's your answer. So let me go back to your question real quick. So when it says, what is the perimeter of the triangle in terms of X, that terms of X means that your answer's got to have an X in it. And so you would have gotten that 3x minus 2. So you're not going to have an x equals something. So usually when you think of perimeter, you're thinking like it's x equals 3. And so whenever you're keeping it in terms of x, it's going to be 3x minus 2. It's kind of a weird answer. All right. And I do have, I can probably find, I'll look for some videos on perimeter problems. I might even find some on area problems where they're not using actual numbers, but they're using, like x minus 4, x plus 2, and try to send those to you. All right, the average of 3 numbers is 25. 2 of the numbers are 18 and 40. What is the third? So first off, I want to make sure you know what average is. So average would be if you take, so I'm just going to go 2 plus 3 plus 4. So if I wanted to find the average of these numbers, I would add them up, and then I would divide by 1, 2, 3. So I'm hoping that's something that you know. If it's not, that's the key to this is you definitely got to know what average is. And so the only difference here is now we're not using the numbers 2, 3, and 4. but I'm still dividing by 3 because there's 3 numbers. And so I'm going to replace, let me use my eraser real quick. So I'm going to replace those numbers with 18, 40, and then I don't know this number, but I do know that those 3 numbers is 25 would be equals 25. And then we're just trying to figure out what that number is right there. And so you could always do something called guessing and checking, where you just start plugging in different numbers and working it out until you get 25. Now, obviously, that's going to take a little bit of time. Now, if it's multiple choice, you would only have 4 options. So you could plug a number in, add them up, divide by 3, and see if it equals 25. If it's not multiple choice and you actually need to solve it, then what we're going to do is we're going to work backwards. And so normally we would add these up and then divide by 3. So if we're going to work backwards, we're going to get rid of this divide by 3 first. So this is divided by 3. We're going to do the opposite, and we're going to multiply by 3. And we got to do that to both sides. So we're going to get rid of this right here and work that 25 times 3 out. And so that's going to give me 18 plus 40 plus x is equal to, and that would be 75. And then to get x by itself, we're just going to subtract 18, subtract 18. You could have added these two together already. So you could have added those two to get 58 and then subtract by 58 and you'd be done. But subtracting 18 and subtracting 40 also works. So it just depends on what you're most comfortable with. I have a lot of kids that would just rather subtract 18 and subtract 40. So that's why I went to that first. But you could have added these two together. So that would give me, I'm so used to using a calculator. We got to borrow. So 15 minus 8 would be 7. And then 6 minus 1 would be 5. And then we're going to subtract 40. And that would give us x equals 17. So now if you wanted to check this, then you could plug in 17 right there and do 18 plus 40 plus 17, add those together, and then divide by 3 and see if, and I think a lot of times on the TSI, I think they might give you a basic calculator. So if they do, then, you know, that basic calculator will work just in terms of adding these together. Just make sure that when you add them together, you add everything and hit equals and then divide by 3. Sometimes if you add them all and then put divide by 3 at the end, it's actually only dividing the end number. So make sure you add them all and hit equals and then divide that answer by 3. So it looks like it should be 17. All right. This one right here, I really don't, because this isn't, well, this is some basic algebra. So I might be able to find something on this. I don't think I'll have as many videos as I will for some of the other stuff, but I'll see if I can find something like that right there. Okay, these two, just based off of what you wrote down, I'm assuming that what they're looking for here is called factoring. Now, I have heard that on the TSI, factoring is really big. And so this is factoring just based off of what you've given me here. I'm assuming that it's factoring. And then there's another question down below, I think that's also factoring. So I'm definitely going to send you some factoring videos. So on this, the only thing that you can really do is look for what they have in common here. So there's only 2 terms, so there's not a whole lot we can do. But I look for what they have in common. And what both of these have is both of these terms have an x. So a term is something separated by addition and subtraction. So this is a term and this is a term. And so when we're looking at those 2 terms, I'm saying, what do they have in common? Well, they don't both have numbers, but they both have an x. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor out an x. So I'm going to remove this x. So I'm going to remove that x. Remove that x, and I'm going to put parentheses, and then I'm going to put what's left. So if I remove an x from right here, there were 3 x's. That x to the third is 3 x's. If I remove an X, now there's only going to be 2 X's. Then I remove an X from here. Well, we still got the -5. The -5 is still there. And so this is equal to this right here. So they equal the same thing, but you're kind of going backwards. Okay, so you're normally you would see this and you would multiply this, do the what's called the distributive property. I taught you to do mountaintops. So I would do mountaintops here, and then you would get this as your answer. So this is just going backwards. It's taking an X out of both of them. And the way you do it is you look for what they have in common. Sometimes they have a number in common. Okay, and so the videos I send you will probably show you how to do it when there's a number in common as well. Okay, but if they have letters in common, they could have more than one letter. So like if there's X's and Y's, if there would have been an X squared here, they would have had 2 X's in common. So you would have put an X squared right there. So a lot of different ways you could see factoring. And so I'll try to send you some videos. This is pretty much the exact same thing. It's just, it has a 13 there. And so, you know, when I'm looking at this, what do they have in common? Well, they both have at least 1 X. So you put that 1 X there. Stupid. Pen hasn't been working very well lately. And so then you put a parentheses. So if there were 3 X's here, I just removed 1, and that leaves me with 2 X's. And then I've got this negative 13X. Well, I just removed the X, so all I got left is that -13. And then this right here is equal to that. All right. So like I said, I'm going to try to send you some videos on, this is what we call the greatest common factor. And you did greatest common factor like when you were in probably like 6th grade, 7th grade, especially when you were dealing with fractions. And so me saying greatest common factor might bring back some bad memories, but this isn't as bad as back when you did it with fractions. So this is actually a little bit easier, I think. All right, so let me scroll up real quick. All right, so if an angle of 360 degrees measures, obviously I'm just now reading this, 6,400 mils, how many degrees are in an angle of, okay. So this is kind of interesting. You tend to see this when there's 3 things. Now, I'm not going to say this is always true, but when I see 3 things and 2 of them are talking about the same thing, they're both talking about mils, this is going to be a proportion. And a proportion is when you have 2 fractions set equal to each other. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up on that white screen. And so what I'm going to tell you is the first 2 numbers I see are going to go in my first fraction. Okay, so this 360 and this 6,400 are going to go in my first fraction. And then the third number, it will depend on where the other name matches. So let's see if this makes sense here. We're going to go back to whiteboard. Okay, so let me clear this. So we're going to go, it was 360 degrees, and I think 6,400 mils. So what you want to do now is label these. This is degrees, and then this was the mils. And so where that third number goes, it has to go, like degrees would have to go here because that's where I have degrees labeled, is on the top. Mils goes down here. And so I think I can, well, yeah, I need to go back and look. Hold on a second. I forgot what the number was. Sorry. Okay, 1,600. So this was a mils. So it's going to be, you know, on the bottom with this one. So we're going to put 1,600. So let me get back to that other screen. So we're going to put 1,600 right here because it was mils. And then the last one just becomes X. So how did I know this was a proportion? Well, I've, you know, done lots of these. And so when I see that there's 3 numbers and 2 of them deal with, you know, something, in this case, it's mils, that might be milliliters or something like that. I don't know, but mils, whatever that is. And then, you know, they're looking, you know, they gave you degrees and they're looking for degrees. So when you see that kind of pattern right there, you know this is a proportion. And so to solve this, most kids do something called the butterfly method. I always did something a little bit different, but usually when you say butterfly method, all the kids are like, oh, yes, I know butterfly method. And so this is where you circle the opposites. And of course, it's called the butterfly method because, oh, it's a butterfly. Okay, so when you do the butterfly method, the rule is that you multiply the two numbers that are circled together, and then you'll divide by the number with X. I hope you get a calculator on this because I would struggle to do that by hand. And so I'm going to hope that you do. I'm going to pull up just a basic calculator. So I'm going to pull up a fancy calculator. And we're going 360 times 1,600. And then you're gonna, yeah. I mean, if you had to take that and divide, I mean, I don't know. I guess you can do it, but I would struggle with it. Divide by 6,400 would be 90. So X would be 90. So hopefully you would get a basic calculator for that. And I say X is 90, so that would be 90 degrees. Okay, 90 degrees. Let's see. Let's go back. Minimize that calculator. All right. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Like I said, they don't really tell you, hey, this is going to be a proportion. You just have to kind of read it and see kind of the pattern that they gave you degrees in mils. They're looking for degrees at this mils, and you just kind of see that kind of relationship there and know that that's a proportion. All right, so right here, the function, okay. So when they put, so right here, they're giving you f of x, okay? And I want you to see this and how similar they are. The only difference is instead of putting this x, they replace it with a 3. That's saying x is equal to 3. So now, when you look at this, if x is equal to 3, we just put a 3 right there. And you just type that either into the calculator or you go 5 times 5 times 5. So 5 to the third would be 5 times 5 times 5. That'd be 25. 25 times 5 would be 125. So the answer to that would just be 125. So anytime they give you what x is, then you plug it in for x and work the problem out. And when you're working the problem out, that's just following PEMDAS. Okay, so you got to follow the please excuse my dearness Sally or PEMDAS rules, whichever one you know, and just work it out. If they give you something simple like this, then you don't have to really worry about PEMDAS. But now, if they ever give you f of x is equal to 125, and they want to know, so hold on a second, let me clear this real quick. So let's say instead of giving you f of 3, where the 3 took the place of the x, if they give you f of x is equal to 125, then they're wanting to know what x is. So what you would do is put 5x is equal to 125. And then you just got to figure out what goes in here to make 125. And I'm not going to lie, this right here, probably your best thing would be to do what I call guessing and checking. It shouldn't be a really big number. And so 5 times 1, 5 to the first power would just be 5. 5 squared, 5 times 5 is 25. 5 to the third, and just keep trying numbers till you find the one that equals 125. And of course, it would be 3. So it just depends on how it looks. If it takes the place of the x, then you plug it in for x. If they're saying that this whole thing is equal to 125, you set it equal to this, okay? Because both of these are equal to f of x, then you can set them equal to each other. All right, so hopefully I didn't confuse you with this part, but you might see it either way. And so the most common way to see it is probably like this. And like I said, you see the 3 in the spot of the x, just plug the 3 in for x and work it out. Okay, these next two are also factoring. But this is a special kind of factoring. So the factoring before, everything had something in common. So they all had an X. It's possible that they could all have the same number. In this one, these two have X's, but this one doesn't. These two have numbers, but this one doesn't. Even if this had a number, you may not be able to take something out. And so this is just a different kind of factoring here. Now, I love this kind of factoring. This factoring to me is a lot of fun because I'm a big math nerd, but these two are, like I said, they should be factoring. So I'm going to try to teach this to you first. I keep forgetting where I'm going. I'm going to go here. And I'm going to teach this by talking about kind of a little game. So this is how I introduce this to my kids. We're not going to include the year that I taught you because that year was just crazy. You're in a terrible class. So it was just terrible. But since then, the classes have been much better. And so the way that I teach this is I teach this called diamonds. That's a terrible diamond right there. And it doesn't look like a diamond. It just looks like an X, but it's just because I'm lazy and I don't draw a true diamond. All right, so what we do in this is I put a times sign right here and a plus sign right here. And I'll say, okay, well, what if we have 2 and 3? What adds to make, or when you take 2 and 3 and you add them, what does that make? Well, 2 plus 3 is 5. But when I multiply them, it makes 6. And so I'll show this to the kids and I go, okay. I said, now I'm going to make the game a little bit harder. And I say, okay, I'm going to put still my times sign here, and I'm going to put a plus sign here. And I say, all right, so I'm going to put, we'll go 5 here. And then I'm going to put 8 here. And I say, okay, so you got to come up with this missing number. And once you find it, then you can figure out this. And so they look at this and they say, well, 5 plus what is 8? Oh, it's 3. And then 5 times 3 is 15. And they're like, oh, this is so easy. And then I said, okay. And I'm tricking them. I'm trying to make them, see like this is really easy and they're buying into it. And so I say, all right, so now we're going to make this harder. And this time I'm not giving you either number. I'm going to give you, let me think of something real quick that's kind of easy, like 8 and 6. And I say, okay, I want to know what 2 numbers multiply to make 8, but they add to make 6. And the key to this is don't think about this first. What I want you to do is I want you to think of everything that multiplies to make 8. Well, let's see, that would be 1 times 8, 2 times 4, and 3 doesn't go in. So these are all the things that can make 8. Now, which of these numbers, if you add them together, makes 6? Well, 1 and 8 would make 9. 2 and 4, if you add them, would make 6. So my numbers are going to be 2 and 4. Okay. Well, that's what factoring is. Okay. So let me go back and let me, sorry, I forget how I switch back and forth. Okay. So when we look at this right here, we're going to say, where you always take the last number, and I want to know what multiplies to make this number, but adds to make this number. And so remember I said you always start with the one that's being multiplied. So what multiplies to make 10? Well, 1 and 10 or 2 and 5. All right. So if I was to add these, would they make -7? Well, 1 and 10 would make 11. 2 and 5 would make 7. Well, 7 is close to -7. So anytime you get the right number, but it's the wrong sign, you just change both of your signs. So both of these are positive. They're both going to become negative. Okay. -2 times -5 makes a +10. But when you add them, it makes a -7. So now that I know the numbers are -2 and 5, you put them in a parentheses with x. So I've got x minus 2 and x minus 5. I will definitely give you a video on this that will work more of these and hopefully kind of explain this a little bit more. If you've ever done FOIL, this is the opposite of FOIL. So I don't know, we weren't allowed to teach FOIL, and the way they wanted me to teach y'all the year I taught you was just stupid, and I don't do it anymore. I teach distributive property now. My boss doesn't like FOIL, but once you get past me, the other teachers can teach FOIL. So I don't know if your teachers have taught you first, outside, inside, and last. But if you were to FOIL this, this is the answer that you would get. Okay. If you don't know how to FOIL, then that might be something that you need to work on as well. Because a lot of times, like they'll have you go from this way back to this, but they'll also have you do this and work it out to this way. And so if I need to give you a video on that, I can do that as well. All right. So this is the same thing. Okay. So it's, they always kind of look kind of the same. And so, you know, we're taking our factors. So this is the multiply, this is the add. So what multiplies to make a negative 18? Now this, whenever it's negative, one of my answers has to be negative. I'm going to write them over here. So I'm just going to make the first number negative. So negative 1 and 18, negative 2 and 9, negative 3 and 6. Now, if you're saying, I don't know all my numbers, one of the things that you can do is bring up just the basic calculator, and then you can take, clear that out. You can take 18 and divide it by 2. It's 9. Actually, it's negative 18. So 18, make it negative, and divide it by 3. Okay. Take 18 negative and divide it by 4. Okay, if it doesn't come out even, it's not a factor. So 4 is not a factor. Take 18 negative and divide it by 5. Okay, that's not even. That's not a factor. 18 negative and divide it by 6. Negative 3, and we already got that. So we're done with our factors. So if you struggle with your numbers, then just take the main number and start dividing it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, until you get back to where you're at. And these are all my factors. Now, which of these, if I combine them, would make negative 3 right here? So I'm adding these. So once again, if these are negative, these are positive. So if you struggle with that and you got a basic calculator, then just put it in the calculator. So right here, I've got negative 1. So 1 negative plus 18 will give me 17. So I need negative 3. 2 negative plus 9 is 7. So no. 3 negative plus 6. Oh, I don't know what I hit there. 3 negative. Oh, I hit times, I think. 6. I don't know what I hit. It's 3. Okay, so I got 3. I need negative 3. So anytime you get the right number but the wrong sign, change both of your signs. So I'm going to change this to a positive and this to a negative. And so when I multiply them, I get negative 18. When I add them, I get negative 3. So my answer is x plus 3, and then x minus 6. I hope you can see that. Okay. And like I said, I'll give you some videos on how to do this, because I heard this was very big on the TSI. All right. Let's see. Okay, so this one's kind of a weird question. So just based off of what I see here, so if x is equal to negative 2, that means I'm going to plug negative 2 in. Now the rule is when you plug in a number, you always put it in parentheses. It's not going to seem very important with A, B, or C, but when we get to D, it's very, very important. So I just always tell my kids, when you plug a number in for a letter, put it in parentheses. All right, so in order to figure out which one's negative, you got to know the rule that one negative, okay, so one negative makes the whole thing negative. Okay, that's a G right there. 2 negatives makes it positive. Okay. So when we take a look at this and we have 1 over parentheses, and for X, I'm going to put -2. How many negatives do you see all together in this problem? 1 negative. This is going to be negative. This is probably going to be your answer right here. Okay. All right. So let's plug it into this one. So I'm going to put negative, and then for X, I'm going to put -2. How many negatives do you see? 2. 2 negatives make a positive. Okay, so here we're going to go negative, and then for the X, I'm going to put -2. So I know that's a lot right there, and then I'm going to go -2 for that X. So right here, 2 negatives make a positive. 2 negatives make a positive. Oh, I've got nothing but positives now. This answer is going to be positive. And then this is the one that gets everybody. So I'm going to plug in -2 here. Well, a lot of kids don't put the parentheses. So this is what I want you to see here. Okay. So if you put the parentheses, do I got parentheses on this? No, but sometimes you make it bigger. It'll give you more options. I can't believe they don't have parentheses on this. I feel like if I stare at it long enough. Oh, let me try that. Okay. Yours may not have this. I don't know, but I want to show you the difference in terms of the calculator. So if I go parentheses -2, wasn't expecting that. Clear this real quick. So parentheses 2 negative, close parentheses. Okay, so you see that right there, parentheses. I got my -2. Okay, close parentheses, and I square it. It gives me a +4. Okay, so when you square this, it gives me a +4. So it's a positive number. And, that's our answer. But let me go back and show you what happens when you don't put parentheses. So I'm not going to put parentheses now. I'm going to go, let me clear this out real quick. All right, so I'm going to go 2 negative and then hit squared. Okay, so this thing put parentheses in automatically. Most calculators do not do that, or at least they're not supposed to do it. Let me see real quick. I'm going to open up real quick because a true calculator won't automatically put parentheses if you didn't ask for parentheses, but those calculators are kind of weird. So I don't know what your calculator that they give you on the TSI. I don't know what it does, but let me show you this. So if I put -2 and then I hit squared with no parentheses, it's going to give me a -4. So parentheses are vital when you're substituting in, especially when you're using exponents. So here I've got parentheses and it gives me a +4. Okay. The reason is because when you put parentheses, it's saying -2 times -2. And then this is going to sound stupid, but when you don't put parentheses, it's saying negative and then 2 times 2. And so it's just doing 2 times 2 and then keeping the negative. So if you don't put the parentheses, it'll make it look like the answer is negative. If you do put parentheses, then the answer will come out positive. So all that being said, these 3 should be positive. This was the only one that was negative. And like I said, the key to this one is making sure that when you substitute it in, that you put it in parentheses. All right, and this last one. A farm has fruit trees planted in rows. There are 6 fruit trees in the first row, and each additional row has 3 more fruit trees than the row before. If there are 18 rows of fruit trees, how many fruit trees are there on the farm? Okay, this is sad, but the first thing that I think of and this would take forever, is to actually draw a picture where you're like, there are 6 fruit threes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then, the next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then add 3 more, right? So, and then doing that 18 times and then counting them all up. So that's my first thought, which is a terrible idea. So we don't want to do that. So let me think here for a second. They want us to create an equation. Now, you've hit my weakness here. Creating an equation from something like this. So I'm trying to think real quick. Oh, you know what we could do? Not an equation, but we could maybe create a pattern. So the first one has 6. Come on, right? So the first one has 6. The next one's going to have 3 more, 9. The next one's going to have 3 more, 12. Now, in the end, you could keep going until you did 18 of them. So this would be the first one, second one, third one, and keep going until you got to 18 and then add them all up. But we can create a formula. This, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to show you how to do this, but I don't want you to forget that we have a strategy. And from everything I've heard from kids who've taken the TSI, the strategy still works. And that is when you don't know something that you guess C. Now, you can't guess C on everything, obviously, but I've used it my whole life anytime I've taken a test. And you got to get what we would call the easy ones. And unfortunately, in college, some of the stuff we just got through doing is considered the easy stuff. And so, we need to go back and make sure you know how to do, especially the factoring. But this question's going to be tough. And so the formula for what this is called an arithmetic sequence, which is a sequence. Actually, no, that's not even doing what I think it's doing. That would help me find the 18th number, but it wouldn't add it all together. And they want to know how many. So even the sequence wouldn't help you. Okay, so maybe. Man, I am struggling with this question. I might have to do some research on this and get back to you. My first thought on this is guess C and move on with life. Let's go find the easier ones. I'm guessing maybe that we could do something where we go X, and then the next one would be X plus 3, and then plus X plus 6, something like that. And of course, if you plug 6 in, you get 6, and then 9, and then 12. But we'd still have to go to 18. Let me do some research on this one. I apologize, but this is one of my weaknesses right here is just word problems like this. So I'm going to get back to you on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly look up and see if I can find some videos on factoring and find some videos on, let's see. So I can definitely, problem is all my videos on functions, I use the calculator. So I'll see if I can find something. Oh yes, the perimeter problem. So I'm going to look up the factoring, the different types of factoring. So I'm going to send you some factoring that you don't even have in here. And so I'm going to send you different factorings because I've always heard factoring is very important. I'm going to send you some stuff on perimeter and area and how to work questions out like that. And if you need me to send you more videos like on the proportions or, if you need more videos on this, like average and stuff like that, let me know. But hopefully just me working them out like this one and this one helped you on that. But if you need more videos, let me know. And then, like I said, we'll just kind of go from there. Just keep sending me if you're struggling, think of other stuff, send it. And then I'll try to get that last question figured out on how to work it. And I'll get back with you on that one. I apologize. So, but that is one of my weaknesses, is those big word problems that are just kind of complex. So I'm sure once somebody tells me, I'll feel like an idiot, but I struggle with that too. So, all right. Well, like I said, I'll send you this video and all the other videos, and hopefully this will help you out a little bit, and keep letting me know if there's more stuff. All right. I'll talk to you later.